All right, here we are. We are on episode 21 of Business Can Be Better, back from the holidays. We had, 3 weeks of no episodes? Because with it being on Tuesday, it was like New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve. Oh, and then was it me that was sick, or were you sick? Something the week before that, too. So
Probably
we're back, though. It's been a while, but we're back with episode 21 talking about, is the customer always right? So talking about customer service, the customer service mentality, you called it? Yeah.
Or policy even. Or like,
Okay.
like I was picturing, I couldn't come up with the right phrase for it, but you know when you hire a new employee and you teach them how to treat customers?
Sure. What kind of a service training would you have? Okay. But before we get into that, what's new? Happy 2020. Happy New Year.
Yeah,
What's
happy
new in your
2020.
life?
This is crazy. I still remember when the year changed to 2000 and
I know.
we wrote that in our notebooks in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, a lot is new. I think I'm new. I feel all bright
You're
and
a
shiny,
new person.
brand new. Yeah, because last year was really tough for me. Like when I looked back, I had gone to the ER 8 times, and most of those, and saw the same doctor most of those times. And I'm not a hypochondriac, if you know me.
Was
I
it the
truly
South
had
African
8.
guy?
No.
He's always in the ER when I take my kids in.
Dr. Darn it.
Dr.
Dr. Martin.
Darn it.
Dr.
Okay. Dr.
Martin.
Okay.
Very nice man. But the point is, when you get concussion, broken arm, appendicitis, back injury, like it was just like one thing after another for me last year. And I just did a lot of work around that over the break with one of my mentors and lots of books and stuff. And I just journaling.
Good.
And I really got that I never booked any time off last year.
Right.
The only time I was off was when I broke my arm or had to get surgery or fell down the stairs or was deathly ill. Right. Yeah. And so, I'm not huge on going back to your childhood and trying to heal old wounds. Right. I'm more the focus forward type of person. So wherever I developed the belief that I had to be sick or hurt to get time off, that's not true. So I'm going to pre-book time off this year.
So you took time off for holidays? You didn't work?
I sure did.
Much? Nice.
No, 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was amazing. And I feel so much more capable as a leader.
Yeah.
Now that I did take that time for myself. So
good.
And also it's kind of funny because I always tell my clients, you have to take breaks. You have to take breaks. You can't keep going like this. And so they'll really enjoy laughing at me for this one.
For taking your own advice.
I can almost guess who the first lady will be that will say, hey, I heard your podcast. I knew it.
I knew it. You're not doing what you told us to do. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a goal to read 50 books this year.
Good for you.
I'm a reader, but not a book reader. Ever since I finished my degree 5 years ago, 6 years, 5.5 years ago. And it was an English degree, so I read a lot, and I was just off of books and done with it. So last year I read 7, or maybe it was 8. I can't remember. We're gonna do 50 this year, but I'm on book 4, so we're trying to get a good head start. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm mixing some fiction and some business, marketing, entrepreneur stuff to keep it interesting, but I'm enjoying reading again. Which I always do read. It's just usually blogs and stuff. Now I'm reading books, and I'm daily vlogging on LinkedIn. Every single day we're putting a video on LinkedIn, and we're getting rid of trying to go for technical quality or high production value and just going for value in terms of it's useful to people as most important. So it's literally just shoot it and post it and be done with it. So we're trying that.
So I can do that too then, and I won't get...
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I like that a lot.
That's what's new with me.
Awesome.
So what do you think about... Is the customer always right? Do you know the origin of that phrase?
No, do you?
Yeah, so I don't know if you ever watched that show, Mr. Selfridge.
No.
About the guy, he's like an American-British person, Mr. Selfridge, Harry Gordon Selfridge, who started a department store in the UK somewhere, and it was called Selfridges, but he was the one who came up with the phrase, the customer is always right. But yeah, I didn't know that until we started talking about this, and I was looking stuff up, and all these articles are talking about Selfridges, and I'm like, I remember that show. I don't remember, I maybe watched half a season of it, but there's a show called Mr. Selfridge that's about Harry Selfridge starting Selfridges, the department store.
Interesting.
And he's the one that came up with that. Quite a long, this would have been 19th century, I believe, or maybe very early 20th century.
How long were they in business?
They still are.
Interesting.
Yeah, Selfridge still exists.
What a nice segue.
Yeah.
Good job. And actually, just so you guys know, we purposely never tell each other what we're going to say once we get on air. It's much more fun that way.
Definitely.
So this is all new to me too.
Yeah, we each do our own prep, but we don't prep each other. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where, because you think that we're going to fight on this one, but we usually always end up agreeing. So I don't know where, like, I don't know what side of this.
That's good communication though, my friend.
Yeah, but you think we're going to disagree on something, and I don't know why.
Well, we'll see.
Where do you sit on it?
Let's do some examples. Okay. So I was trained, I want to say old school, but I know I'm younger than some of our listeners, I'm sure. But like the first real, I guess, career job that I had, probably second or third, but I was at Global TV. And one of my boss actually was Kendall Gibson. He's still one of my mentors to this day. He helped name my company. He emceed my wedding. He's a really, really cool man, but he's definitely old school. So he was the first one to teach me his mentality. The customer's always right when they're around.
When they're around,
You know? And not to be two-faced or dishonest, but it's not that they're always right. They're just never wrong. Okay. So you don't, and I found this in an article actually, so I have to ask him if he got it from that article. But as long as you don't make them wrong, like, can you imagine saying that to a customer? You're wrong.
Right.
You're not getting your money back. No. Right. I don't think the customer is always right is a very useful phrase in today's shopping era.
Yeah.
Nobody says that anymore.
No.
No. Except for like some redneck in a movie I think I just watched over the break. Haven't you heard the customer's always right? We don't say that anymore, right?
Okay.
So what we try to do is listen, acknowledge, solve the problem, then take action.
Right.
And like, so I do believe that every customer has a right to share their opinion.
Of course.
And I do believe that we should listen first, fully listen, unless they're being mean to our staff.
Right.
You know, number one thing is if somebody's yelling at my staff, then I would rather take that person myself.
Okay.
And if they continue to be, abusive or derogatory or whatever, you just let them know. If you can't talk respectfully, we are going to hang up. You know, we've had some situations like that. So in that case, the customer is not right.
Yeah.
But I think what we can do nowadays is do everything in our ability to help the customer have the best experience possible.
Yes.
That said, there are some people who refuse to be happy customers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with, globalization, online shopping, the transparency of social media, the ability to leave a review almost everywhere.
Yes.
We would be smarter to be more cautious of pissing customers off.
Okay.
Like, I do think you should be careful of that. But again, if they leave you a bad review, you can handle it beautifully and you could even, build up some more street cred, online cred. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't think the customer's always right, but I definitely think that we should always try to solve their problem.
Of course.
And leave them with the best impression of our brand.
Yeah.
Regardless of if they bought a $5 item or $1 million item.
Mm-hmm. So that means I think that's pretty easy for us to know where to sit on it when they're being abrasive and abusive. I mean, obviously, we're not going to...
That's a no.
Yeah, we know that line. But I mean, you deal with, and both of us do, but you deal with clients where there isn't necessarily a provable black and white answer to what the right answer is. So what happens when you have pushback from your clients when they're saying, no, I don't agree that that's what I should do for my business? Are they right, or is your expertise trump their
So you want me to talk specifically about the coaching?
Yeah, I mean, that's an example of a place where it's not about being abrasive or abusive. It's just about you have your area of expertise and someone who's coming at it from a layman is disagreeing and saying that they know better. How do you deal with that?
I love my job and I'm really good at it. I'm not bragging. I'm just being honest. Like, I'm really good at spotting problems with leadership or problems within the business. And unfortunately, a lot of times I have to tell my clients, your business is not doing really well because you are not doing really well. Either you're lacking confidence, or you need some counseling, or you need to do some personal development, or you have to let go of this grudge that you have, or the worst is when they think an employee is the problem
Right.
And I have to convince them that they're the problem. But actually, this is something that I just worked through over the break. One of my mentors was saying, you're never going to get to the next level in this career, of coaching like millions of people all over the world until you drop the Mr. Nice Guy attitude.
Okay.
And at first I was like, I am nice.
Right.
And she's like, okay, have you ever sugar-coated or changed your wording a little bit to deliver some feedback or criticism that your clients really needed? Well, I'm like, well, yeah. Well, why? I'm like, well, they're going to fire me if they get too mad,
Right.
And so it's really hard as a coach. You don't want to be so mean that they're like, I don't like this anymore. But you have to be honest and direct and point out things that they might not want to look at. So it's a fine line. No one has ever, to my knowledge, fired me because of that. Usually
because of being a bully.
No, anytime somebody isn't doing their homework, I usually say it's time to part ways for a few months so you can really get your work done and come back. But and the customer, let's say there's two different examples here.
Okay.
So if the customer says, it's not me, it's my employees.
Right.
I will suggest, okay, you can't change your employees though, but you can change yourself.
Yeah.
What could you change? So I'll kind of help them see, okay, maybe there is something wrong with them, but they're not in the room right now. What can you change? Because often if you change the way you're looking at them, or you change the way you think about that employee, or you change the way you show up for that employee, the employee changes.
Right.
But that's a completely different thing than, let's say somebody buys an online course. And you know how valuable that online course is that we're selling for $298. Other people in similar fields are selling courses for $2,000 or $3,000. So ours is $300. So if someone bought that course and then they wrote me a horrible review, said they wanted their money back, I didn't know what I was talking about, none of this stuff works. The old school client service mentality in me would just be like, give them their money back, give them whatever they want. I don't want to argue with this person.
Right.
But I honestly don't know what I'd do in that case because we haven't had that yet, right?
No. Yeah. I mean, that's I don't think that's taking a position of their right. If you were to refund them their money, that's not going. I wouldn't see that as admitting, well, they're right.
No.
It's just saying, I never want to charge people for something that they
don't find value
in. And them not finding the value doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. It means that they weren't able to find the value in it. And I don't have a problem with that. I've only ever had, was it once or was there a second time? No, there was 2 times where I've not invoiced a client for work that was done because the value wasn't found there. And so it was like, that's not they were right or we messed up. It's just like, listen, this relationship didn't work. Whatever happened, and we just that's not an admitting they're right and we're wrong. It's just that's a way of dealing with a situation where people are unhappy.
We did actually have, I just remembered, somebody bought all 4 of our courses that were on Kajabi, and he is an online marketing expert. So he went through my stuff and received no follow-up emails, did not get dropped into any funnels.
Okay.
All he got was the courses because at the time, the marketing company I was working with, we weren't selling anything. So I was like, put a pause on this while we find somebody better. So he basically said really nicely, I just wanted to let you know the courses are great, but I didn't get any follow-up. Like you didn't try to sell me anything else. You didn't, add me to your weekly email. You didn't put me into a funnel. And he's like, I can't recommend this to my clients. And so, of course, it was bad timing. Right. So we apologized and we fully refunded his money, even though he didn't want it. So yeah. I do know the answer to that one. I would, without a doubt, refund the course money. Yeah. It's not worth it to have someone. I never want anyone to think that I'm charging them for something that they didn't get value out of.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think I definitely agree how you started by saying that the customer is always right is probably a dated concept, and it's something that was something that we'd heard decades ago and that we probably it doesn't really fit in today's marketplace. And I would definitely agree with that because we were talking about it today just in the office, and I was asking some of my employees just what are your thoughts on this, and we were kind of laughing because we're like, oh, that's like such a boomer thing to say. So we're all laughing and saying, okay, boomer, when we said the customer's always right, because it's just like, yeah, it is just an older frame of mind that I don't think is how we conduct business anymore. I think for sure anytime someone brings something to you that you should assume that they're right to begin with, because I've definitely been in situations as a customer where that's very annoying, and you bring something up and they're immediately on the defensive and saying like, well, no, you did this wrong, or no, right? Like as soon as they get any kind of negative feedback, there's that. So I think for sure you should assume they're right first, but as soon as you have evidence that shows you like, no, it's not, there's something else here, like they didn't understand or there's some mistake happened, whatever it is, then you can act differently. But I would say it's smart to give all benefit of the doubt to them to begin with, and then figure out what your approach should be. But
yeah, actually, you know what? Ever since Christmas Eve, I've been having these horrible customer service experiences, and I keep thinking, I got to bring this up on the podcast. Yeah. So my husband's dad, unfortunately, is in what is the proper term for an elderly care facility? I know it's not old folks home. That is not
right. It's not old folks home, anyways, but it's the word that means old folks home. Okay?
So his sisters are incredibly generous, organized. They like plan things down to the just like so much food, all of their dad's favorite dishes. Like it was so Christmassy in there, and the handy bus was supposed to pick him up at 4:30 and drop him off at Tim's sister's for dinner. And so he was like, I want to say 37 minutes late, and I was like, Tim, just call the place. And so we called, and right away, no trouble solving, no, we'll see what we can do. They just started backpedaling. It wasn't me. I wasn't working that day. It wasn't written on my sheet, blah, blah, blah. And so they were so busy defending their mistake that I couldn't get through. Hello, please just stop. Can we just pick him up ourselves? Like I kept saying, I don't care who screwed up.
Yeah,
I just want to pick him up.
Yeah.
And so we were on the phone for 15 minutes before she let me talk.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at the handy bus. I just want to know if I'm going to be able to get him in my car.
Yeah.
So big fail there. And I'm going to go back to the acronym LAST, I think, quite a few times, because I learned that one a long time ago and it works really well. Listen.
Yes.
Like, shut up. If an angry customer comes in, just listen. Because a lot of times, especially people who aren't necessarily super mentally healthy or happy,
just toxic people,
they want to talk. They want to be heard. And then they want to be acknowledged. And then we can talk about solving the problem. But yeah, shut up when somebody's trying to give you feedback. That's a big one, I think.
So what's the rest of LAST while you're on it?
Listen. For real listen. And when I say listen, I mean listen with the possibility of having your mind changed. Don't just listen and wait for your turn to talk. Listen, acknowledge, solve, and take action. Because I think too many people, especially men, sorry guys, have you seen the nail in the head video?
No.
We have to play that on this podcast.
Okay.
So a lot of men,
on YouTube?
Yeah. Okay. A lot of men just like to solve problems, right?
Right.
They're like, and the woman just wants to talk about it. She just wants to talk about her feelings, and the men want to solve it. And she's like, just listen to me. And he's like, but I can solve it.
Right.
Oh, we're gonna play this right now. This is
I don't know.
Nail in head.
Is this it?
Yep, top one.
All right, we're gonna have to just switch our view so people can see it.
This makes me laugh so much.
Where are we? Here we go. Okay, this will be for our YouTube audience, not our not our podcast.
Oh yeah,
audience.
it's called "It's Not About the Nail," guys.
This is also only gonna have our audio on it. They can't hear it, so it's a good thing it has captions. So this is like mocking the other way. It's mocking women who don't want a solution when sometimes they do need a solution.
The idea I really wanted this to portray was just that, like, if you try to solve or take action before you've listened,
right,
often they're not very happy about that.
Okay.
And if you guys want to watch this, sorry, we did a terrible job sharing it with you. It's called "It's Not About the Nail" on YouTube.
And it has 19.5 million views.
And it's hilarious. So anyways, the acronym. If you have a customer who's upset, listen, acknowledge, solve, take action.
Okay. I like it. Makes sense. We have one client who I think is probably the biggest master of service of anyone I've ever met, that really, really understands service, because they're in a service business and they train their staff in a high turnover industry. They have a lot of staff turnover, although I'm sure in his business less than others. But he's amazing at training people on how to do service well, how to provide high level of service. And his kind of saying that I've seen, and he has it printed out and it's all over the place in his business too. He says that the definition of service is a genuine desire to make someone's day better. And that is all service is to, and he makes sure that everyone like really internalizes this, that it's not about putting on the phone voice, or it's not about like whatever those corny kind of stereotypes of service are. It's approach every customer with a real genuine desire to actually improve their day.
Yes, I love that you said that.
Yeah, and I really like that mentality of how to approach customer service, because that allows that the customer could be wrong, because sometimes like customers are quite poor at knowing what they want. And so if they come to you and have a suggestion, they want ketchup on their steak, you can say, let me make your day better by offering you something that will make it greater.
Put on the side.
Right? So sometimes they don't know what they want. And so you can actually stay with that definition of service, that you're going to make their day better by disagreeing with them and helping them get the better experience. And so I think that is a good definition of it, that it's not to just serve them, like to be in servitude and do whatever they ask of you. It's that the end goal is to make their day better. And so whatever it takes to make that objective happen, then that's service.
I think a lot of business owners are scared to let their staff loose, right? Like
Right.
I think I know who that is.
Yeah.
And I think that I get that experience from him every time I even see him. And I love it, but it also implies that he chooses people particularly enough to work for him, that he trusts them to do their own version of this, right?
Yeah.
It's not scripted out.
No.
And that's what makes it really authentic. Like, even business owners, so staff a lot of the time, but even business owners who are frustrated in their business, they're frustrated with their staff, they're sometimes frustrated with their clients. I'm like, you have to flip your paradigm. You have to become grateful for those clients. You have to become grateful for every dollar that comes in, because if you have this frustrated attitude, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. If you have this frustrated attitude with your staff, never mind your clients, they will sense it. And it won't go well for you. And
Yeah.
I've heard people say, no, I can fake it. Nobody knows. It's like, no, you can't fake it. You have to genuinely love your business.
Yeah.
And the people in it.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention about what you said about they might not know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of customer service has to do with setting expectations or agreeing on expectations. Because I read this one study, and I think it was 86% of people will not go back to a business because of unmet expectations.
Right.
But if you don't clearly tell them what to expect,
right,
they make up their own expectations,
of course,
and you have no idea what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So some of my clients do this really cool thing where they kind of have a poster, and it's framed, and it's where all the clients can see it, and it says, our promises to you.
Right.
And it's like, today you will receive this.
Mm-hmm.
You will receive that. You will have a warm smile. You'll be given the opportunity to rebook, like all the things that they're supposed to do.
Right.
And then it's a sort of a bullet list for the staff too to remember.
Right.
But they can use their own wording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had this experience in a restaurant recently where someone set an expectation that was wildly inaccurate because we were ordering breakfast on our road trip back from Manitoba from Christmas, and we'd ordered and we were waiting, and the waiter came by to refill our drinks or something, and they're like, oh, your food it'll be up in 1 minute. And my son is like a very literal person. Like, there is no gray area with him. There's no, yeah, I think so. He's like, no, yes or no. Like, he needs to know definites. There is no gray area. So he's like, okay, 1 minute, that's 60 seconds, right? And our food is like 12 minutes more.
Oh.
And so he's sitting there. I'm like, you have no idea what you just did to my child, because he's sitting here going, she said 1 minute. Where's our food? Why is our food not here? So don't say your food will be here in 1 minute if it's not going to be there in 1 minute.
Yeah, so that's probably a big part of good customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Setting expectations.
Set the expectation.
And then keep the expectation.
Yeah,
Deliver
of course.
what you say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, when there's friction about the customer being right, obviously we're talking about when they are wrong, but we're just going to let them be right. Like, that's what we're talking about, right? When there's friction and they're saying that something should be a way that you didn't plan it to go, and you're allowing it to go their way. That's what the customer's always right thing kind of means, right? They return something that obviously you broke it. It wasn't broken in the package, but whatever, the customer's always right. Like, that's what we're talking about. But I think that whenever we give in to that, when it's unreasonable, something else suffers, and that's quite often your employees. Like, they have to put up with, okay, we have to placate the customer and make them happy. Yeah. Or it could be your service suffers because of it, your product suffers because of it, like putting ketchup on a steak. Like, you're literally sacrificing the quality of your product. Or other customers might have to sacrifice because whatever, someone forced themselves at the front of the line, or they're asking for something that's going to take longer, or whatever it is. If you kind of give in to that customer is always right mentality, in the worst case scenarios, there's always someone else that has to give in. And I know, working with a lot of people who work in service, and I've worked in, restaurants and things like that. When you work in an environment where it's no, the customer's always right, it's hard on employees. Like, it's really, really tough on them. And to me, I don't know how everyone runs their business, but to me, my employees are more important to me than my clients. And if someone is making my employee's life hell, the client goes. It's not the employee.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And so that's where I don't go with that. Oh no, the customer's always right. We got to make them happy.
Yeah, no, I don't think I could honestly stand behind that sentence in any business.
Mm-hmm.
I think more customer service paradigms or customer service mentality, rather than the customer's always right, because like you said, that's outdated and it's not going to give you a positive effect.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of the different experiences, like, so the care home, right?
Sure.
So, and for me, I always go right back to the leadership. I've never met the person who's in charge of this care home, but I have met a lot of angry employees, a lot of defensive employees.
So what kind of environment are they working in?
That's coming from the leadership, for sure. So that was one example. And then I think maybe Boxing Day, one of the days we were off, we didn't feel like cooking. And I think it was after we had visited that home, actually. And we ordered from Brown's.
Okay.
And I ordered like this very specific, annoyingly modified vegan meal.
Of course.
Which they got perfect.
Nice.
But they put it into two different containers.
Yeah.
And then the bag, we picked up the bag and took it home. And so it was just 2 vegan meals instead of 1 vegan meal and my husband's beef meal.
Right.
There was no way he was eating that
I'm
second
sure
bowl of
he was
vegan
not
food.
happy with that.
He was like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Do you want one?" He's like, "No." And he grabs a bag of chips out of the counter.
Oh, no.
And then I'm like, "Well, do you want to go back?" And he's like, "I don't want to go back. I just put my sweatpants on." I'm like, "Well, let me just call." And this kid couldn't have been like more than 18 years old. And he was so, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Just one moment, please." And then he comes back and he's like, "We're just going to remake that for you and I'll whip it over in about 5 minutes." Nice. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's going to bring it over here himself. That's so great." And then he comes in a cab. He doesn't even have a car. He took a cab to bring us the food that we forgot.
Wow.
So Brown's, well done. That was like my one really, really, really good customer experience. Cool. Oh, also Pure Spa. But I can't brag too much on them because I'm obviously biased.
Right. As a client of yours, yes.
What was the other bad one, though?
Mm-hmm. I think the change in mentality of why that old modality is so dated is because I hope that a lot of businesses have gotten beyond the idea that they need to please everyone, that not everyone's going to be your customer. Like, you're never going to have 100% market share, so why are you worried about pleasing everyone? Like, just please the people who love you. And I think that's what, I've embraced, and maybe I take it too far, where I'm like, I just want clients that I love working with, and the rest of you can go find someone else, right? Yeah. And I think a degree of that definitely needs to have a place in any modern business, where you're not trying to please the people who you don't even want as customers. Yeah. Let them go. Like, just work with your greatest customers, the best type of customers.
And for us, I think it's one way, especially for my coaching and consulting, like, if you're in multi-level marketing, or you work out of your house, or you're just self-employed, you don't have a team, you're not for me. I work with people who have actual buildings that they need to clean, and payroll they have to pay. So the brick and mortar businesses, which, is totally opposite than most people you see online talking about the run your business from the beach on a laptop. So those people are not for me, because my expertise has always been in running real businesses. So if somebody comes to me and they're stay at home, or they're self-employed, or they're multi-level marketing, I tell them, here's some good free resources, but we're not a good fit.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that is much better than saying, sure, I can help you, and then not help, like, not being able to provide a positive return on investment. Mm-hmm. But I think the key is you have to be really self-aware when you're dealing with upset customers. You got to be really emotionally intelligent, because it's really easy, especially when it's personal, to take it personally and then react.
Right.
And sometimes angry customers, I try to always think of this one situation that my brother was in a few years ago to try to relate, to just try to feel bad for them. That usually works for me.
Empathy is a very powerful thing, for sure. Yeah,
because they must have something really horrible going on if they're going to come in here and yell and scream at us about whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think those are those ones where it's kind of easy to figure out how to deal with them. But it's the ones they're not upset, they just disagree. And I mean, I will have that for sure. We'll have clients who, like, if the relationship isn't good, if a client is saying, like, why are you doing this? This makes no sense. Why are you working on this? Then I know it's not a matter of, like, giving in to their right, but it's also not a matter of, well, we're the expert, just trust me, get out of my way. Mm-hmm. Because there's something that wasn't set up in place first, which is some sort of trust, or we don't understand their business well enough because they're identifying that we missed something, or something's not there. So it doesn't have to be, well, they're right, and it doesn't have to be that we completely missed the mark. It's just, okay, we need to have a conversation to figure out what your goals actually are. Why are we misaligned on what we should be working on? And yeah, that's kind of where our effort has to go. But I mean, I come back to customers not often knowing that well what they even want or need. We're doing some customer research for a client where we're doing surveys out to their existing customers. We're doing just general market research using Google surveys. We're going to set up an actual, like, deep focus group next month, which I'm really excited about. But that research is going to be very valuable, but at the same time, a customer is never going to be able to give you the idea, like, tell you about what is the thing that's just going to blow them away and surprise them and make their experience great. Like, they're going to be able to take your status quo and waver a little bit outside of that about how you can improve this slight thing, or you missed the mark here, just like these little improvements, and give you good feedback. But you're never going to get your next great idea usually from customer feedback. They're gonna think within a paradigm that's pretty close to what you're already doing, and so a lot of times
frame of reference for something.
Yeah, and it's our job as the business owner or the business marketer to come up with those ideas of how do we make their experience amazing, because people aren't going to ask for that. They're not going to say, well, if they asked you, how can we make your Browns order better? You're not going to be like, well, get in a cab. I don't care if you don't have a car. Come bring me this food, right? Yeah. You don't give that feedback. That's something that has to come from them, where they can go, above and beyond, as the cliche goes, and do something that truly surprises you and makes the experience great. So, I just really believe that a lot of customers they're not good at telling you what they want. It's not that they don't know, because if you told them, they'd be like, yeah, that'd be amazing. But they're not good at telling you what they actually want. And so there's a little bit of mind reading involved in great customer
asking
service.
Questions, of course, but also setting expectations. Because if you leave too much up to, like, gray area or customer decision, like, you won't even be on the same page with them at all. Yeah. I think setting expectations is a good thing. But the other thing is, I know when Laura started working with me, and I'm lucky in my one business, we only have, 10, 12 clients at one time. Mm-hmm. So those people are very, very hand-picked. We don't work with people who aren't kind, generous, truthful, who take great care of their people. Yeah. Like, these people are, like, amazing people. So the very first thing I said to Laura, I said, I don't care anything you screw up, just make sure all the customers are always happy. Do whatever you have to do to bend over backwards to make sure that they're always happy. Because without them, we would have no business.
Mm-hmm. And you can say that because
I know who they are.
Yeah.
Now, we have some people calling who are not customers, right? Those people don't get the same.
Yeah.
Our customers who we vetted, who we know, that I know they would never mistreat Laura, she can make them a priority. Yeah. But if someone calls on the phone and is unkind, or she told me about this one person who had sent a message that wasn't very nice, and I'm like, okay, nope, take them off the list. Because that is... Taking care of your employees is how you build a good business, because your employees will take care of your clients.
There's always more clients.
If you ever put your client above your employee, I think that relationship would be very hard to salvage.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is this our best podcast ever?
I don't know.
It might be.
You didn't bring me anything to drink. I know that.
You have a bottle of water.
You're drinking alone over there.
Do you have anything else to add, or are we going to do our quick tips?
Well, I think I do, because now that I bought half of Shoe Solutions, it's been quite overwhelming, actually. You know, I've always worked with businesses who had thousands of clients, but I've been so settled in my 5.5 years of consulting with only 12 that it's like everywhere I turn, someone has a suggestion for me, or a type of shoe we should carry, or something they saw on Facebook, or something I should get on Instagram. And I'm like, holy guys, I've been in this business for 2 days. I'm just getting my feet wet. You know, thank you for your feedback. But when you have thousands of customers a month versus 10 customers a month, I think you really have to just adopt a general rule, you know, like have a set of rules for your staff.
Yeah, it is a different thing. Yeah.
Try to clarify expectations, give the best customer experience possible, make them feel amazing, you know, try and make them happier when they leave than when they came in.
Yeah.
But I also say don't tolerate any abuse.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's not okay.
Yeah. I think I had like a last point about people who disagree with your stance, your product, your service, whatever, and it's not the angry thing. They have a different idea. And I think the best outcome that you get from that is not to convince them that yours was better, but to explain in a way that it almost becomes their idea, right? Like they agree and they say, yeah, that makes sense. And then, better than like shoving them into your position. It's kind of like going around them from the back and explaining and giving them all the context and why your solution or your explanation or whatever we're talking about, why it is the one that makes the most sense in that context. And then they agree. They're just like, yeah, no, they almost come at it as if it was their idea rather than trying to force them into your perspective.
Yeah, trying to force somebody to believe what you believe will never work. If you're just a total loud jerk about it, some people might back off, but they still don't believe you.
Yeah.
I would say 2 things about that. Final 2 things. Number 1, ask more questions. Like if you really don't understand why Lane is so upset about this, I was going to say CD, DVD, all those are extinct, about this bag of balloons that he bought from the store. And
stupid
we just
balloons.
Totally disagree, right? But I think my first thing would be to ask a lot of questions. Like, what is it that you're upset about? You can get to the answer pretty fast there.
Right.
You know, they're broken and they don't work. Okay, great, I'll replace them. Or in a more sort of detailed example that I can't think of right now, but something, let's say a house.
Okay.
Like a sale of a house, that's a much bigger thing. I think if you can remember that even though we are disagreeing right now, if we both look kind of down the road, like over here, here's the solution that we want.
Yeah.
We both want the same outcome. We want you to be happy and I want my commission. You know what I mean? Okay, now we're back on the same page because we know we want the same thing. So let's try and figure out a way to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me wonder about certain stores that have policies that are extreme return policies, like Costco would be an example that has extreme return policies.
Like
where
easy or not
no, extremely easy. You know, someone returning a Christmas tree in the middle of January that's dead, obviously, right? That's like a live Christmas tree, and they'll return it. Like just absurd things.
I heard Princess Auto has something like that.
Right, and
they never return anything.
That's like a customer's always right kind of mentality, and
we'll see how that goes for Walmart.
That becomes their unique selling proposition, or it's like it becomes one of their big things that you talk about them, where it's like, wow, you can buy and return anything. So because it's so extreme, it becomes a huge USP for them, I guess. But it's an interesting angle that I don't know that I would want to take for my own business.
Also, you're attracting
clientele you don't necessarily want. Yeah.
And you have to read Re-Engineering Retail. It's so interesting. But one of the studies in there was talking about how one of these stores, I want to say Walmart, but I'm not sure, so I won't. What was it? 87% of merchandise was being returned at one point. Like it was some ridiculous number. I was like, I can't even calculate the number of hours times the, like that's
because
obviously
the return
a loss.
policy was too
way too slack. Yeah.
Okay.
But and back in the day when Walmart first started, like having great customer service in the beginning, which from all the historic articles in the book on Sam Walton I read. It was really great. It's just in the last few decades that Walmart has turned into just a disgrace and the opposite of what Sam Walton wanted.
Right.
But those guys were ahead of their time in customer service. I think now when people express frustration about a customer to me, I'm like, you have no options today. Today, we have the internet. So if you want to bitch, call your counselor. But do not yell at a customer. Do not upset a customer. Do not offend a customer. None of us want a nasty Google review, Facebook review. Yelp, are they still alive?
Oh, yeah. Yelp.
Even Megaro has their own. It's a salon software.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Quick tip you want?
Yep. Yeah, I do. What's your quick tip, Kelly Ray?
Well, I know creating like a whole manual full of policies and procedures is a lot. But I would say if you could just create your customer service policy or your customer service procedure, that would be a very urgent. Yeah, a good place to start. Because if I start working for you and I'm going to handle 20 to 30 phone calls a day, shouldn't I know what the rules are around talking to people that phone? Yeah.
That would be
You'll save yourself a lot of. And your conversion rate will probably go up and your retention will probably go up. Yeah.
Get more friendly reviews, all that stuff.
And all those young, nice people that you hire, they might not have the great conversation skills that you think they have.
Okay.
So role playing is also a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. My quick tip is about a lot of this customer service stuff doesn't happen on the phone or in the store. It happens online, on social media especially. We run a few accounts for very big international brands where we become the outlet that people vent their frustrations to. And so you get a lot of that customer service type stuff vented at you. And I was reading this recently, and I wish I had written down the statistic, but it is so much like drastically more important to customers to get a quick response than what you actually do. Like it's not about you got your refund, we settled the issue, anything like that. They just want to be heard and you respond to them. Like that is so important.
What about an auto response? Does that count?
Well, no, it needs to be a human. It needs to be an actual. I mean, unless it's an auto response that's good enough that they felt like they were heard. But I think most people have a pretty good radar to know like that was an auto response.
Okay, what if it said, "Hi there, we are away from the phone, but we would love for you to send us in great detail your
They don't feel
concern.
Heard. No.
And then we'll get back to you in 8 hours."
People just want to be heard, and they want to feel like, okay, someone heard what I had to say, and they're going to hopefully do something about it. It's more important that they get a quick response than it is to actually settle the issue. That's the most important thing, is to get back to them. Don't just hide the tweets that you didn't want to receive, or the Facebook comments, just delete them and hide them. Just respond quickly, send them a DM, whatever you got to do. And that is actually more important. Of course, you still want to resolve the issue, but just to say how important it is that you resolve it quickly rather than brush it under the rug and hope they go away. That's an extremely important part of social media management, is quick responses to customers, especially the ones who are not very happy. That's my quick tip. Put some time into that. Make time for that. Make sure you're available to it, or somebody is.
What about like nighttime?
I mean, yeah, if it's an international big company where there's always someone available, there's got to be people in different time zones. If we're talking about a local business and you're firing something off at 2 a.m., I don't think people are too upset. But if it's 8 p.m. the next day and they still haven't heard, they're probably going to be a little upset about it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Get at it in the morning when you first log in and check. Yeah. Well, that's episode 21 of Business Can Be Better, and we're back in the groove now. We'll come back on Tuesdays at 7:15 p.m. Mountain Time, live on YouTube at Better Business Podcast, and then, of course, listen wherever you listen to podcasts to Business Can Be Better.
And we should really get some people, like, joining in.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice. I mean, when we take off for almost a month and don't do an episode, people have forgotten our schedule, but we're going to get people back into the chat and joining our conversations and telling us their thoughts on things. That would be amazing.
Also suggesting future topics you want to hear about.
Of course. Yeah. We'd love to talk about what people actually want us to talk about.
So did we disagree?
No. Dang it. We're going to find a contentious topic at some point so that we can disagree.
Should you wear backwards hats to work?
Yeah, that's a good one. You know what? I'm seriously considered a personal rebrand, so I don't know. We're gonna have to figure this out. I'm considering it.
I'm was joking.
Yeah, so we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. You can find me on Instagram at The Real Lane Anderson, on Twitter, Lane_Anderson, and then please follow me on LinkedIn. Just look up my name, Lane Anderson, because I'm doing daily vlogs, and honestly, that's the channel I'm putting all of my effort into these days.
Me too.
Good.
I'm Kelly Ray Tamaki on LinkedIn, and on Instagram, Kelly Ray Tamaki TMH, and then on Facebook, Kelly Ray Tamaki TMH Business Coaching and Consulting. Thanks for watching, guys.
See you next time.